Hi, and welcome to our knowledge sharing series. Our monthly edition is titled Beyond Self Supply. We have amazing panelists speaking to us on this topic today. I can see guys are joining in. Karibuni sana. Just to remind you, we're live on LinkedIn, we are live on YouTube, we are also live on X at ESA. Okay. Thank you. Thank you from wherever you're joining us. Once again, this is Electricity Sector Association of Kenya. This is our monthly knowledge sharing series, hashtag SRKSS. We do this with one mission at hand, to demystify the sector. We're like the enzymes, breaking down complex or soluble things into small digestible matters that that can be beneficial to the people, both in the sector as well as outside the sector. Before we proceed, you'll notice a lot of our series today, our episode today is sponsored by JA Solar, who happen to be one of the key players in the C&I sector, and also relevant to our topic today. We have one of the panelists speaking today on the same. The others I will not preempt what our moderator for today is going to be speaking on. But first of all is to thank you for joining our conference that happened a few months ago. JA Solar was also one of our sponsors. Thank you very much. We appreciate the continued support in driving the sector forward. That said, we'll play a clip sponsored by JA Solar, and then we will proceed with the conversation as planned.
In 2005, JA Solar began its journey, turning sunlight into momentum for a new energy era. From its first breakthrough to global leadership, JA Solar has made the world more sustainable through innovation. 6 national-level green factories, pioneering low-carbon manufacturing. 280 gigawatts plus shipped worldwide, lighting up 178 countries and regions. 14 consecutive years among the global top 500 new energy companies. 9-time winner of EUPD Top Brand PV in Europe. 20 years of progress, powered by technology, setting new standards. By the end of 2024, JA Solar reached 100 gigawatts in module capacity. RMB 3.71 billion invested in R&D 2024, innovating to power a greener future. 1,899 patents, establishing a technological edge, unleashing the power of every beam of light. 20 years of innovation, redefining what light can do. 87 Hope schools funded. 1,000 plus students supported. 2,000 plus people regained their sight. Over RMB 40 million donated with care. 20 years of responsibility, lighting the world with care. For 2 decades, reaching mountains, oceans, cities, and villages. Across continents, across cultures, protecting the planet's green heartbeat. 20 years on, JA Solar stays true to its purpose and step into a new chapter, illuminated by its legacy, driven by the power of light. One day to go. JA Solar 20th Anniversary Celebration.
Thank you very much. I think that's it. Lynette will tell us more about JA Solar. I would like to hand it over to our moderator today, who is also the CEO of ESAC, Mr. George Aluru. Take it away.
Session. We are hosting three panelists who will be discussing around CNI beyond self-supply. This was also the theme of our CNI conference that we held in April. And basically with this, we are trying to see what can CNI and CNI providers, and I mean captive power plants, do beyond what they kind of just use the self-supply. What can we do to then support the grid mostly? The grid traditionally would provide frequency and backup support for CNI installations, especially those that take their frequency from the grid. The grid itself suffers a lot of stability issues, sometimes quality of supply. And today we have also issues around capacity and also availability of energy. As a matter of fact, as of the last April statistics, the amount of CNI that is installed on the Kenyan grid is about 600 megawatt. And without this 600 megawatt in today's grid, we would be load shedding actually. The CNI is coming in to play a critical role at a time when there may be some capacity challenges on the grid. Well, CNI itself also is not just solar as people would think. CNI can of course be wind, can be hydro, biomass, or geothermal, and in addition also having storage. So we want to see what's the possibility for CNI to kind of help the grid in terms of reliability, voltage support at the ends, and also provision of extra or additional energy, especially through avenues such as net metering. We also anticipate that Kenya would also soon launch an ancillary services market. And within this, we also see a possibility for CNI to play a role. The American President JF Kennedy once asked not what the country can do for you, but what you can do for your country. And in the same way, us as CNI players must ask not what the grid can do for us, but also what we can do for the grid. That said, today is not my day. I'm supposed to actually just allow the panelists to vent and tell us the issues and explain some of the critical areas that we're looking at beyond self-supply. And with that, I would want to allow the panelists to introduce themselves. We do have three panelists at the moment. One is still logging in, but we can start with Lynette and Sam. So starting with ladies first, Lynette, just introduce yourself and tell us a bit about yourself, and then also what comes to your mind when you think around the concept of beyond self-supply. Karibu sana, Lynette.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much, George and ESAC team for having us here and also inviting us to sponsor this KSS session. My name is Lynette Karume. I'm the CNI sales manager for JA Solar here in Kenya. I also manage South Sudan. And maybe I can talk a little more about JA Solar. So as JA Solar, we proud ourselves as a global leader in the PV industry. Yeah. And we were founded in May of 2025. We're celebrating 20 years in the industry right now, showing our capability and, in both delivering technology and also corporate strength, financial strength, that is. Currently, our mission is to developing solar power to benefit the planet, with one of our core values being customer-centered. That means the way we serve our customers, from our factories all the way to after sales. we're very customer centered, and we ensure that the products we are providing to the market are not only for short term, but for long term use, right? So when I hear of beyond self supply, as a CNI solar expert here and someone who has been lobbying for CNI solar installation, I'm thinking of the shift that we are coming from generating energy or generating enough solar energy to power our own industries or own operation to actively participating in the energy ecosystem that is in Kenya. Yeah. And I'm also thinking it's about moving from energy, just energy independence, because most of CNI, the CNI sector, we usually look to solar for energy independence, but moving from that to energy leadership, where companies are generating excess energy, feeding it back to the grid or supporting community resilience. You know, so those are the things that I'm thinking about, George, when it comes to beyond self-supply. I'll be very much interested to hear what my other panelists think about. Thank you.
Thank you, Lynette. So yeah, supporting energy resilience in communities and also feeding to the grid. Sam, same question. Introduce yourself. Tell us about the company you work for, and tackle the same question.
Hi, George. Yeah, thank you for this opportunity. I trust you can hear me. So, my name is Sam Mwangi. I'm Business Development Director for Anzana Electric Group. Anzana Electric is a player in the energy sector. And just checking that you can hear me. Okay. So Anzana, our mission is to accelerate electrification across Africa. So we largely develop decentralized renewable energy plants. So decentralized or distributed generation, as well as distribution networks. So those are some of the most important aspects when we think about electrification in Kenya and the region. And to your question, when we think about C&I beyond self-supply, we know C&I players or the industrial sector in Kenya, the commercial industrial sector in Kenya is a major consumer of power. And they've been, over the last few years, they've been looking at how they can supply power in a more cost-effective way, in a cleaner way. And so the solution has been to have captive generation. And so thinking beyond that, as you said before, with the 600 megawatt coming from being own generation, then there is a contribution that this power makes to the grid in terms of having clean, decentralized, and dynamic power available across the country. During the conference, there was that concept that if for example the regulator had not supported captive power generation or C&I power, we would be having a lot of load shedding, and I think this was coming from the regulator saying that if this 600 megawatt was not there, and we have the demand that we have right now, we would be struggling to meet this demand. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks, Sam, and also again for reminding us around the importance of CNI and how much it has helped the wider grid to actually sort of shed some demand which would not be able to be supplied today in today's case. Now, that said, our third panelist is here to join, but we shall proceed, and perhaps maybe just going back to Lynette. For our sector to implement these measures to support the captive power plants, the ability to access financing, will be very, very important. From where you're sitting as an OEM, as JA Solar, what measures are you undertaking to support your clients who might want to, install JA Solar equipment but are not able to access finance or need some sort of support to access finance? What is JA Solar doing in this regard?
Okay, thank you, George, for that question. As an OEM, of which, George, I'd like to clarify what that means. We are original equipment manufacturers. Yeah, that means we go deeper than just producing the panels. We have cells, we have wafers. That said, we recognize that to move from just cell supply to beyond that, we would need to, financing is a bit critical, of course. And in this way, one, we are partnering with EPCF, that is companies that do engineering, procurement, and construction, but now they have another docket of financing. For example, we have a key player in the CNI sector, Miale Invention. This player does not just do the EPC, they do the financing, whereby they have packages that are very attractive to the commercial and industrial players, this enabling them to access the solution, as the capex for this solution are quite high, and we sort of understand, So some of these financing options actually come with no upfront cost, right? So there are these solutions in the market. Reach out to us. We can be able to connect you with some of these players that are very, leading in such solutions. Then next, we offer bankable equipment and guarantee. I will be speaking more on bankability in my next question, but bankability is more of equipment that are more reliable and de-risking the whole project, meaning that these are equipment that will serve you and be able to produce power as indicated in these products. For example, the module wattage will be producing the same power, meaning that when you are financed, you can be able to bank on that product to actually, give you the output that is required. With guarantees and warranties, we have at least 12 years of product warranty, right? And 30 years of performance warranty, making sure that most of the financial packages, they want to recoup the investment in 5 to 10 years, meaning that our product will, be able to satisfy the financials, that it will work for the time that they'll be able to recoup the amount, and hence they're more prone to financing these projects. Other than that, we currently have an after sales and a technical support. So some of these projects in the CNI sector, you find that some of our clients who want to do these projects themselves, they want engineering part, which now we currently offer as JA. We offer project design. We also support our EPC client in project design so that we can ensure that these projects are well structured from the start. And lastly, we are supporting our clients all inclusive from, all the way from, you can actually visit our factories, with the developers to ensure that the products are being manufactured in standards. We offer certificates. We offer all type of documentation that a developer might want to make sure that the project will actually deliver what it's supposed to deliver. So this ensures that the financials are more confident and comfortable when solutions are being constructed with our equipment. Thank you, George.
Okay, just a quick follow-up. Now, as a developer, what do I need to kind of access this possibility of you kind of introducing me to a financial or some financial modality, can I just walk to JA Solar, or there are some kind of requirements, pre-requirements for anyone to be supported this way?
Okay, the main thing is that you have to implement your project with our product. Okay, if you're going to implement the project with our product, and we can see that the designing of the project is already done with our product, or you want us to support in that, that's the major requirement we have. At the end of the day, as we support you through introducing you to different financiers, that you're going to implement your project with our equipment.
Okay, thanks. Thank you for that, Lynette. Now, coming back to Sam. Sam, you know, we have all these dreams of what we think CNI can do beyond the grid. And really, I think there's a lot of excitement in the sector as to the way the grid is shaping up. Now, for us to see all these opportunities captured by captive plants, no pun intended, what sort of regulations do you expect will be required for us to see more energy and stability services being supplied by CNI, captive solar or wind or hydro developers to the grid? What are these regulatory aspects that we need to get right?
Thank you for thank you for that question, George. So I think there's for most of the people in the sector, these are sort of well known, and it does seem like I think the regulator can actually say that they are supportive of the sector in terms of some of the processes that are in place. But just to mention a few of those regulatory, from a regulatory perspective, some of the things that would support this sector. So one has to do with the net metering. So when you do a captive plant for your own consumption, you tend to limit the output if you do not have enough load. But then if we are to benefit from that, if the grid is to benefit from that, having a mechanism through which you're able to bank part of that power, even if you don't get the full credit for it. So we have the net metering regulations that have been gazetted where, but then this could would only benefit. I don't know that there are some captive plants that are already making use of this, but this would only benefit power plants up to 1 megawatt. So one of the things, one of the regulatory actions that could be supportive is to progressively raise these limits from the 1 megawatt as experience is being gained, so that you're able to, when you're not using this power, you're able to send it to the grid, and you're able to get, I think right now you get either 50% or half a unit for every 2 units you put in, you can take out 1 unit. And so that would be a win-win and would encourage more, would play a ensuring that C&I plants are more of them can be done from a financing perspective. Another one is about open access, which is something that is in progress. So it's not in place yet. It's still a work in progress, where you're able to use distribution transmission assets belonging to the other distribution licensee. In this case, the national utility, KETRACO, to wheel your power to a customer who is connected to that same system. So this would be one of the big game changers in the sense that it's not going to restrict the capacity, and we might now start to see captive power plants that are not being built only for a specific industry, but are being built for power trade. So that is one thing that would be a good to see going forward in the market. Another thing is to compensate for the ancillary services. So right now, a lot of C&I plants are solar, solar without batteries. And this is because it's almost like a no-brainer. So you don't need a lot of additional incentives to do that. But then if you need power at other times of the solar without batteries would then serve you very well during the day. But you also want to encourage wind. You want to encourage small hydro or hydropower. You want to encourage more of waste heat recovery, which is another source that is being used. And so to encourage that, because that technology tends to be a bit more expensive than the others, or even storage, battery storage in the case of solar, then finding a way to compensate for the support for the ancillary services provided by availing the power, say at 7 to 9 p.m. when we have our peak demand. If there is compensation for that, then that would encourage more baseload into this captive space. I think a lot of the conversations are right now, a lot of the expectations are around the open access, bulk supply, and also that leg of that regulation. I think a lot of our eyes are on that to see, because then that will determine how fast this will grow, because it will allow power plants built in one place and selling power further afield, and that will unlock some of the other technologies that are very site specific. Like hydro is very site specific. They might not be immediately the surrounding, but by having open access to the ability to use the existing distribution network, then we'll see more of those of such plans being developed.
Okay, thanks, Sam. And maybe just remind the audience that we are monitoring all platforms. We are on LinkedIn, on X, and also on YouTube. If you at any point have any questions, feel free to type them there. We will collect them and ask our panelists and myself also to respond to them. Now coming back to Lynette, this push that we have beyond self-supply will require us to have more kind of advanced and grid forming devices that provide these stability services. And the equipment themselves will also need to be acceptable to financing institutions, who then would finance the end developers of these projects. You mentioned a bit around bankability, and I would want you to go a bit into this. From your point of view as an OEM, what is bankable in terms of equipment?
Okay, thank you, George, for that question. So as the sector moves towards grid supportive C&I solar plants, the role of advanced grid forming technologies becomes very central to this. So when it comes to bankability, we look at, from the OEM perspective, bankability refers to the confidence that financial institution and project developers have in quality, reliability, and long-term performance of the equipment. Okay, so in general, that's what bankability means in a OEM perspective or in JA perspective. So specifically includes one, proven track record. So equipment that have been successfully deployed at scale, particularly in similar environments or region, is more likely to be considered low risk. So if we look at JA deployment, when we are not just in East Africa, but mostly actually we're prevalent in the South, the North, and the West. We have projects ranging from 50 megawatts, 1 megawatt, 40 megawatts. So we have proven track record of deploying these projects, and we can offer all the references that you need to see our work. Next, it would be when you're looking at bankability, you look at certification and compliance, products that meet international standards like IEC, UL or ISO, and are compliant with local grid codes, and utility requirements are more attractive to financiers. So you look at products that already have certification. We have international standards certification at JEA, and we are also compliant with local grid codes. We've not had issues with clients that are using our product with such issues. The next one would be having strong warranty and after sales support. As I stated earlier, at JA, our product warranty is usually 12 years, meaning the financier will have been able to recoup the investment in that time, but also our performance warranty is 30 years, meaning the end users will be able to, benefit from this product. So we're not just looking at our end by just selling the product. We want to sell products that will benefit you in a long-term perspective. And the next one will be technology stability and roadmap. So lenders favor equipment that are not experimental. OEMs need to demonstrate that the technology is mature, stable, and backed by a clear roadmap for updates and spare parts availability. So at JA, we have a clear technology stability. We've been using TopCon, and we keep innovating. Our R&D is well funded, and we are on top of the technology as it advances. We are also always evolving. We are currently launching our 5.0. We currently have the 4.0, but we'll be launching 5.0, showing commitment on developing our technology and keeping in pace with the industry. And also our roadmap is very clear, having products for residential, C&I, all the way to utility products. We have a wide range product basket to serve these markets. And lastly, when you're talking bankability, we look at OEM financial strength and reputation. This is very important because you don't want to buy from a company that will not even be there in 10 years with the warranty they're giving you. So as JA, we have demonstrated that we have financial strength, and by actually existing in the industry for 20 years, we have been listed in several trading. We have been listed in Shenzhen Stock Exchange. Our revenue as of 2022 was 7.2 billion RMB, and we have cumulative shipment of above 150 gigawatts, showing that we are, financially strong as an institution, and also our reputation across the globe is intact. So when you're looking at bankability of a product, these are some of the factors that you look at. And yes, as OEMs, it has responsibility not only to deliver high quality solutions, but also work hand in hand with developers and financiers to ensure that our equipment enables this transition, hopefully, and not delays it. Thank you, George.
Thank you. Thank you, Lynette. So you said we need to show a proven track record of the equipment, international certification, show that the stability in this technology is not something experimental, and also that your OEM will be there forever, at least for as long as forever exists.
Okay, well, for the time that we've given you warranties, at least will be existing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, proven that. Yeah.
I mean, that kind of also places most people, they're enthusiasts who try these experimental technologies, and also maybe when there's a new kind of a development, like for instance, when there was bifacial panels introduced, at that point, would you say that even if I discover like a new way or a new kind of solar that has much higher efficiencies, just based on my own scientific research, this is not bankable? It has to kind of take some time first. And
Yeah,
what
because
too bad for me.
okay, the thing is, how mature is your technology, George? If it's your backyard technology, we'll have some arguments about it because we have not tested it. So, for example, solar is very sensitive. So we have technologies for desert climate, for ocean climate, for windy, sandy climate. So I don't know how you would classify your technology, and would you have certificates to prove that? You see, so if you're looking at giving this technology to an institution or bringing this to a developer and also bringing in a financier, it might be very high risk for them because we have no proof that this technology will actually perform and recoup the investment made.
Thank you. Understood. And I believe this is a very kind of bank centric perspective around risk. I guess for enthusiasts, you could access some sort of philanthropic money that can allow you to build a pilot of sorts that then gets this experience, and then the bank kind of is able to.
And how will you
fund.
scale, George? How will you scale?
From the point of view of when wind started, wind energy, it was basically back of the back on your garage kind of activity. People would build small wind turbines, they put them, they test them. After a while, after now we started to see a lot more build up. Then the technology gets recognized. Then now the banks feel comfortable. Now this is where we are reaching bankability after
Yes.
a certain. Think it takes a bit of a risk for
Yeah.
a technology to be accepted. But
Mhm.
thank you. I completely understand. I'm just trying to see if there's hope. Some of the people who approach us with like their own innovative technologies, and there's lots of such people. Coming back to some. Thanks, Lynette. Coming back to
Thank you,
some.
George.
When we talk about this beyond self-supply, many people start to get uncomfortable and they think we are about to take someone's cheese. Somebody's cheese is being moved. Yeah? What do you think we as a captive power or CNI industry need to do to kind of bring forward that understanding that we're kind of here in a collaborative way and not really to come and take someone's cheese, and how can we communicate this?
Yeah. Let me not start with how we communicate. Maybe I'll come back to that. I think one thing is in Kenya, it seems like the message is not being passed by one group and the other group is saying something else. And maybe I'll start from the approach of Anzana, the company I work for. So what we want to do is to accelerate electrification across Africa. And we are looking at 3 different ways in which we can do this. So one is this distributed generation, where we have baseload power, typically from small hydro, and that power can serve C&I customers, can serve even households in the area. But it's a bit slow. So this is one, and then but it can also just connect to the grid and just sell power to the grid, and the grid will be responsible for distribution. A second approach is where we have an integrated utility where we are doing generation and distribution in one. And a third one is where we do like a distribution utility where we are looking at a large scale distribution. And we might be buying power from someone else and retailing the power. When you ask this question, this is the question that the distribution utilities would be worried about, especially when you don't have a lot of experience. But with the experience that is being generated in Kenya and in other markets, really, at one point we're seeing that there's a limit as to how much how many PPAs the distribution utility can sign. There has been a lot of conversations in Kenya over the last 5 years, and I think from around 2018, 2019, there has been a big shift in how, for example, our main distribution licensee looks at this. So they no longer look at captive as competition, but is what it rightly is, that it's a way for consumers to participate in generating power, and by so doing, they're able to achieve these what Lynette was calling the energy independence. They are still a bit dependent, and that's why we are bringing this concept of beyond self-supply, because as they supply themselves, that can still benefit the grid. So there are many models that we can look at, and many markets have looked at. But at the center of it is, how do we serve the customers? How do we ensure that we can power industry? And if we keep our focus on that, we keep our focus on how can we, in the most cost-effective way, supply the end consumer. And in this case, we'll go even beyond the industrial load, or just the customers, the industrial customers or commercial industrial customers, to even households. I think we know in the electrification space, there is a lot of talk about how do we electrify the remaining, say, 600 million Africans within a certain period of time. When you start to answer that question, you find that you have to use all the, you have to approach it from many different areas. And that has been our approach, that we don't restrict ourselves to only generating power and selling to a distribution licensee that then distributes, because then they might be limited at some point in how much power they can take. But where the market allows for it, to look at distribution utilities, where we can have private investment solving this need. So as long as we keep our eye on the goal, the ultimate goal, which is to power industry, to power development, to contribute to the economic growth of the country, we will see that we will not see it as taking someone else's cheese. And I don't want to go into this, but I think even from on the utility scale projects, they are starting to benefit from some of the inventions that are being made to support the captive power. So, for example, it used to be that in the past, if there used to be a termination of a PPA, then the buyer would pay the seller, the power plant, and they will take over the power plant. And I don't know that many utilities are very keen on that, and they are trying to find a solution which basically requires wheeling, requires open access, requires introducing a measure of flexibility in terms of consumers being able to buy from different licensees, buy power from different licensees. In terms of communication, I think for ESAC, I think ESAC has done quite well in this. It started with the baseline, trying to get a baseline of how much captive generation is there on the grid. So there was that report launched in March of 2024. And the sector participated in providing information of how much they have installed. And since then, we've seen a lot of progress in terms of communication on the benefits. I remember at that time, there were these 10 key drivers of captive generation, if you remember. And that, I think each of these has helped to with the communication for policymakers, for players in the market, different players, whether it's those who might, those other licensees that might feel like this could be a challenge to their business model. I think we are seeing a more coordinated approach to the communication of the benefits.
Thank you, Sam. And actually, we have just been joined by our third panelist, Vicky. Vicky, thanks for joining in. Maybe I'll start first with you introducing yourself, and then tell us also a bit about the company you work for, and just what you think around this whole topic of beyond self-supply. But additionally, I had asked Sam on communication in terms of this CNI beyond self-supply, how should we kind of make this information or knowledge or the thought that we are here to support a lot more kind of understandable to anyone who's watching, and not kind of viewing us as a competitive effort, especially against the utility. But karibu sana, first introduce yourself, then you can handle the question.
All right, thank you very much, George. My name is Vicky Karuga. I think you can all hear me. You can hear me?
Yes, we can. Right.
You can hear me, right?
Yes, right, we can hear you.
Okay, great. So my name is Vicky Karuga, and I actually am an architect in training, but currently I am running a company called Profiles International. And what we actually do is we focus on talent development and talent management. And we try to create the workplaces that the future needs right now. So we're trying to make Kenya future ready in the way that people view the world. I think one of the things we find is that things are changing so quickly that we need to keep upskilling ourselves and reskilling ourselves to really be able to take advantage of what's coming. I also then chair an organization called the COMESA Federation for Women in Business. And this is just a collective of women who've come together, who do business, who of course want to speak, work together, fast meet, create wealth, learn from each other, understand how they can also be part of conversations like this, gain knowledge, speak sometimes about policy. And we are part of COMESA, the big organization. We, for example, we try and engage in different areas and sectors as women in business to understand how we can leverage, how we can get understand, and women in business are always looking for opportunities as well. So when I encountered ESSAC, I remember the first time I remember mentioning to Andrew that there was all this information, and it seemed to be flying off the air. And these are things that people are interested in, self-supply. And when you think about what we're talking about as self-supply, it's not something, I don't think it is rocket science, but immediately you say C&I, self-supply, it sounds very technical to me. I remember some of the words that I was hearing. I'm like, what is that? I was speaking about the time of use, and I was just wondering and getting to know a little bit about it. But a lot of the women that I asked, do you know what time of use is? Do you know there's a tariff that is meant to help you be able to use energy efficiently? But we didn't know. Right. So when I was also coming here to talk, I asked, do you guys know that you can sell energy, or rather you can, there's a framework that's coming that you can actually be able to contribute to the energy conversation and perhaps trade your bills for power. And guys are like, yeah, some of us have heard about a thing like that, but it's still such a myth. And I think when we don't become aware that we are not being inclusive. When you're technical, and I think I was sharing with George, technical people, we speak together and we understand each other. But then what happens is that the people who we are serving, people like me, then just plug in, not out of curiosity, but out of the fact that we need you, right? And yet there are so many opportunities that I think, now that I am learning a lot more about this space, there's so many opportunities that women can take up. I mean, we have manufacturers, women in manufacturers, they have installed solar plants, they have banks, but beyond self-supply, I don't think is an option that they currently think about. And I think the problem largely is in how we phrase we language whatever self-supply means. I don't know if I've answered your question, George, in some way.
In some way, you describe the problem. Mine was
Oh,
then how do we overcome this problem? How do we communicate? How do we like frame in ways that people can understand when we say beyond self-supply, we mean what you already have, let's say, installed solar on your facility.
yeah.
How can you kind of give grid some services or help the grid help support the provision of electricity? Some actually did mention a very important thing, which I think I should repeat.
Yeah.
The whole goal of what we are doing is to ensure that we have the consumers. It's not really about competing. It's not about captive power being better than the grid or the grid being more reliable than captive power.
Yes.
It's about are we supplying power to the consumers in the way that they can do whatever it is they want to do with their life in terms of economic empowerment. So how do we, as technical people, me and Sam and
First, I
Lynette,
think
communicate in ways that can be understood?
sorry, the last part I didn't hear.
And I was just asking, how do we communicate in ways that we can be understood?
The first thing is to have more of these forums. I don't know how many forums like this you have for external parties. How many?
We actually normally have this every month, and it's open to the general public. But still, you have to know that it exists, or maybe you be following it or having heard it from someone. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think there is an opportunity there to first leverage on partnerships of areas that maybe are not traditionally going to be listening to ESSAC, yeah, and following this conversation. So, for example, organizations like mine would love to partner and just to have people come and give conversations as trusted advisors, because you are the experts in this field, and start to sensitize and make us aware of what does this really mean. Because at the moment, there's so many questions. How do I get myself onto what's the process? How do we even start metering? Those are questions that if I can start having forums, and they have to be many, and they have to be deliberate, and they have to be consistent. The reason why alcohol sells is because it is in your face every single day, and someone is sending you a message every day reminding you of how much when you drink this, you'll feel this way. And sometimes whenever I look at marketing, I think we miss the point. Marketing puts the message in your face. And I'm not saying we go all out like that, but there's that deliberate effort of knowing that, for example, we want to tap to women and women in business, because we know that once women understand this, they're going to be the drivers. They're going to push. Yeah. So who can we partner with and make it a consistent message? We're going to have a knowledge forum series where they go, yeah, and we're going to ask people who are interested in maybe, for example, right now they may not even know that they're interested in getting into that space, but they do have the means to get into that space, right? So they can start understanding, what does it mean for me in terms of empowering myself, and we start getting what we call maybe being energy literate first and foremost, before we even understand what are the things we can come together as women. We can maybe have clusters and develop this thing that we can use and be able to get money. Yeah, so that's business. For us, that means more money. Right now we can't see that possibility. But I think, one, the forums, the more we educate. Two, telling us how can this happen. I remember asking a question some time back: how much money does it take for me to be able to participate as a supplier? What's the threshold? And someone told me that they're not also very sure or aware. But right now, my perception is that maybe I need to be another Bamburi, or I need to be another, you get my drift. Yeah. So I think those are some of the conversations that we can start having with women. And then kind of, maybe, I don't know, this is not in your docket, but I think you can influence it, is to then see what kind of incentives we can also give women, because I know that's not or other other players who are not right now in the energy conversation. Can I rest for now?
Yes, you can rest for now. But actually, I wanted to go back to Sam. If he's still there. Sam?
Yes, I'm here.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, so having had all this feedback from the other panelists and also our discussion before on what we think self-supply can do for the grid. First, are we dreaming? Are we in our own rabbit hole, just talking about things in some kind of echo chamber where we're talking to ourselves and feeling good about it? And if so, how do we get ourselves out of there and actually tackle whatever can be low-hanging fruits? So what are these low-hanging interventions that we can go after to actually make this real and not just a topic to be discussed on a knowledge-sharing series?
Yeah. I think if we think about so this story is about providing providing additional capacity, energy, stability, grid stability. On capacity, I think that is now sort of proven. So it's something that we can see. So I think one fun fact for the audience is that we have more solar PV capacity developed through the captive as captive compared to what is developed for grid feeding under PPA with the utility. I think it should be like 300 for captive and 210 for on-grid. And if you add to that, if you were to add standalone domestic solar, it's a lot much bigger. So you find that with in terms of capacity, the ability to for captive plants to provide that is proven. And it's a matter of ensuring that whatever changes are being introduced. So, for example, there's an idea that was raised during the conference about regulatory levy on the C&I space, which sounds like a reasonable approach, because then you need the regulator to be able to play their role within the sector. But when someone is thinking about that, they think about a regulatory levy, what is needed to regulate the sector, as opposed to the older thinking was a grid defection surcharge or something like that, because then that is a move sort of to discourage captive development of captive plants and encourage on-grid. So I think starting with the capacity, that is something that is proven, and it's something that we can get more of by ensuring that these upcoming pieces of regulation are supportive of the captive space. There's in terms of stability, reliability, how captive plants could play a role in that. I think if we find a way to unlock more captive generation from other sources, and I was speaking to this a bit earlier. Right now, what is growing very fast is hydro. So when we did the study, we saw that captive small hydro, captive plants, small hydro was total capacity of 33 megawatts. That has not grown. I don't think we've had any new one come online since March of 2024. But then if you compare with solar, we've had a very big jump over, I think, over 100 megawatts coming online. So if we are able to find a way to encourage these other technologies, so if there was no hindrance, you would find that they would be more happening. So if we are able to encourage, so, and this is where, for example, this conversation about ancillary services, how important is it that we have some captive generation that can provide power even during the night or during the period when we have the peak. If we are able to bring that, then this will become a bigger part and maybe compensate for that. We'll see more of that coming in. And this is not limited only to, say, baseload plants like hydropower, but even for solar, one may want to have a bit of storage, to include a bit of storage. But without a way to compensate for that, then we'll find that it's going to be increasingly difficult to cost that in and still be able to do the project, such a project. And another thing maybe to add is we're not just dreaming. So if you look at the number of players in Kenya who are looking to invest in the energy sector, it's a decent number. So we have a decent number of players in the international financial markets willing to play a role, and they're not restricted. They in terms of if they have a mandate to do generation, they're not restricted whether it's on grid. They might not be so restricted as to whether it's on grid or captive. And so as long as there's this room for industrial consumers to play a bigger role in terms of reaching this energy independence, we'll see more and more growth, and that will benefit us in a number of ways. The one that is already proven is in terms of capacity, that by having an additional 600 megawatts, which does not sit as a liability or an obligation for Kenya Power to purchase. That is a good thing for the market. For the other aspects of reliability, reliability in a way is also tied to this capacity, that you have the available capacity to meet the demand. But then in terms of stability of the grid, we need to do a bit more to encourage baseload power plants and battery energy storage that could be added if the regulations increasingly support that.
Thanks, Sam. Are you okay? Yeah, I think one of the best comments I've heard from you now is around diversifying the technologies that are used for captive supply. Maybe bringing in a lot more also base load on the captive side, geothermal. I know there is a flower farm that actually has some geothermal generation that is captive, which could also be made available for the grid at a certain point. I also hear you around capacity being kind of a bit of a straightforward one. And then I think also energy, just with net metering, if we can, install your own facility, whether it's solar or whichever technology, and you can sell off kind of your excess to Kenya Power, you give them energy almost free, because you give 100 and they give you back 50. So that 50 they can then kind of have more energy that they can sell to consumers, not really just capacity. So yeah, thanks for those interventions. I would want to come back again to Lynette, and Lynette, just to ask you, from where you sit, where are you seeing the growth markets coming from for JA in this kind of ecosystem of captive and beyond captive?
Thank you, George, for this question. So we're looking at the captive power market in Kenya. For our audience, captive power markets are just in the solar energy system, installed and operated by companies or on behalf of the company, simply to supply electricity for its own internal consumption. So here we're talking about companies that will be installing this solar solution for their own internal consumption or to store, not necessarily even to wheel maybe. This is just in the self-supply as we go to the beyond. So among the key drivers for this in Kenya right now, we can see is the high and unreliable grid tariffs. We find that the Kenya electricity tariffs remain among the highest in East Africa, which actually have frequent reliability issues that now push businesses that are cost sensitive, such as factories, molds, agro-processing with cold storage, to seek energy independence. We're also seeing a strong policy plus regulatory momentum in the country. The Energy Act of 2019 and the Kenya Updated Energy Planning Framework allow captive solar system to up to 1 megawatt or more with licensing. So we can see this is one of the drivers that is really pushing the captive market, and the shift to sustainable operation pushed by businesses trying to align with the ESG goals and supply chain decarbonization. So most multinational companies such as Unilever, AABL, Safaricom, they are going towards captive power in the solar. For example, like I know AABL is going to be installing a 5 megawatts. They're developing a 5 megawatt solar solution at the moment. And the last is financial innovation. So among the key drivers to this in Kenya, we can see that there's a lot of EPCF coming in. We also have financiers. Banks are also warming up to the idea of financing captive solar systems. And yeah, so if we look at where we are headed, we are looking at sectors such as manufacturing, that is EPZ, and agro-processing. Opportunities for JA here is that such sectors have high load profile and they're seeking long-term saving and also rising ESG reporting pressure. So we can see that these sectors are looking for captive powers. We're looking at the hospitality, malls, and cold chains. There is need for energy cost control plus backup because KPLC sometimes does its thing, and these sectors that need stability. Then we're looking at education and health institution. We can see, especially when it comes to tenders, NGOs and donors are really trying to get captive power in these sectors. And the rising need in technology with data centers and tech parks are some of the areas, growth areas for captive. And lastly, we can look at real estate and commercial park, especially on rooftop solar demand. You can see that there's rising there. So how we are positioning ourselves strategically as JA is one, we leverage our brand bankability by working with EPCs and financiers who need tier one model to de-risk the investments. Then we also bundling with financial models, as I talked about. We have EPCs that are also lending finances. Then we are educating the market. So participating in forums like this with organizations like ESSAC, to demonstrate our ROI and long-term performance of our product. Yes.
Thanks. And I think from the kind of spectrum of industries you've mentioned, well, in my mind, I see that these are kind of geographically distributed, and in a way that should we then use these plants that are being installed, we are able to make interventions on the grid from whichever corner of Kenya. Because if you talk about NGOs, hospitality, malls, real estate, commercial, and then also that pressure from the ESG side, this will definitely involve kind of a diversified, in terms of location, installation of CNI plants. Thanks for that. Now, I again would want to remind the audience that we are monitoring both all three platforms where we are streaming this, LinkedIn, YouTube, and X. If you have any questions, kindly write them down there. I'm just about to ask my last question to Vicky, and then we will go to the audience questions. So just feel free to type out your question there. We have a team in the background that's actually looking at the three platforms and collating the questions. Vicky, now coming back to you, and my last question for today, the moderated question. You've actually talked a lot about kind of the drive to involve women in this. And I just wanted to know, like, for women-led businesses or women-owned businesses, what are their unique pain points in terms of power supply, and then how can we in the captive power market kind of bring them on board and even carry them along as we go beyond our own captive supply. What can we do to make it worthwhile? Because in the end, I think you mentioned it somewhere in your speech, it's about money in the pocket. How can we ensure that they also get money in their pocket from all these interventions?
Yeah, okay. So I think one of the big pain points, of course, is how much capital we require for if we're to start to have energy, well, solar, and I imagine storage as well. So limited access to capital is one of the things that faces women, and not even just in energy, but it's kind of like a theme that cuts across a lot of the things that women need. I mean, we are always trying to address for women. The second one is not very women in tech, so they might not have that confidence, to veer out to start looking for solutions, and they might then be leaning on more to the traditional aspects, right? So you find that what happens in that area is that women, even whether they're small or large, they're still paying a small premium when it comes to the work that they're doing using energy that is quite expensive for them. Many of them, or even many of us, are putting myself in that situation. We have a low awareness of what captive power also is. So there's that lack of awareness as well that comes. So I think to simplify it is also the fact that when we're making a decision as women, that's why I put the business aspect into it, or even women in business, the fundamental question we are also asking ourselves is, if I invest in this thing, what is the win for me, right? So in response to that, I think that one of the things is to first, as I said, actively always acknowledging the fact that we need to come in as, or rather, say partners need to, like let's say JA Solar need to come in as partners. Acknowledge the fact that it is not always that you're going to find people who are speaking the same language as you, but yet I think there is still an opportunity that you can find. Talk about even, as you were saying, the different geographical locations. We have women businesses everywhere. We have chamas, people who engage in serious business, but they have not really encountered or been part of a conversation about how they can also empower themselves, first to supply themselves, and secondly, they can then use that money to be able to empower themselves in business. So maybe change that narrative, that when we're going to have this conversation, we're not speaking about the grid, because when you first start speaking about the grid, the first thing is distrust. This grid first is not even reliable for myself. KPC is not reliable as itself. So how am I, how do we start a conversation about the grid? Maybe we change the conversation first to, as if you choose to go this way of captive power and beyond supply, these are the things, these are the benefits. This is how you can do business. This is how you can actually reap from investing in that. And another way that I think that we can bring in more women into this conversation is being able to tell these stories as well, humanizing the stories of success. Yeah. So maybe there are small suppliers out there who have managed to do this successfully. And how then can we have that message go out a lot more, so that then people are already seeing something that has happened, and so for the women who might not really know the whole story, they can see the transition, so they get curious and maybe get into this idea. And I think then a lot of the power problems that we have, if we can also partner, I don't know about JA Solar, but if we can partner with institutions that understand the financial constraints that women have, and see how those models can be rolled out. I know there are some organizations that are working with, especially with women, and they're funded, that bring projects of this nature. And I think maybe they're just not enough, but there is some movement towards that direction.
Thanks, Vicky. I think those are quite insightful comments, especially changing the conversation to how they directly benefit them. I'm also a fan of that. Just show me how it affects my pocket. I think once you show anyone how their pocket is affected, then they kind of they sit upright and take notice of what you're saying, and then also take success stories and humanizing the stories. I think this is something that we don't do much, especially on the technical side. We just know, this is doing this megawatt, that megawatt, the tariff is that. You've had all the jargon we've used across as me and exchange views.
Yes.
Some of these questions are a bit understandable, and then also you've raised a point also around kind of bringing on board institutions that understand the unique challenges of women as they go into business. I think all these are really nice and valid points. I'm informed that before we go to the audience questions, we will have a video from our sponsor. So if you are listening in online, please continue to type your questions on LinkedIn, on X, on YouTube. We are collating them, and once we come back, we will go straight to those questions. So back to studio for the video from the sponsor.
In 2005, JA Solar began its journey, turning sunlight into momentum for a new energy era. From its first breakthrough to global leadership, JA Solar has made the world more sustainable through innovation. 6 national-level green factories, pioneering low-carbon manufacturing. 280 gigawatts plus shipped worldwide, lighting up 178 countries and regions. 14 consecutive years among the global top 500 new energy companies. 9-time winner of EUPD Top Brand PV in Europe. 20 years of progress, powered by technology, setting new standards. By the end of 2024, JA Solar reached 100 gigawatts in module capacity. RMB 3.71 billion invested in R&D 2024, innovating to power a greener future. 1,899 patents, establishing a technological edge, unleashing the power of every beam of light. 20 years of innovation, redefining what light can do. 87 Hope Schools funded, 1,000 plus students supported, 2,000 plus people regained their sight. Over RMB 40 million donated with care. 20 years of responsibility, lighting the world with care. For 2 decades, reaching mountains, oceans, cities, and villages, across continents, across cultures, protecting the planet's green heartbeat. 20 years on, JA Solar stays true to its purpose and step into a new chapter, illuminated by its legacy, driven by the power of light. One day to go. JA Solar 20th Anniversary Celebration.
Thank you for our sponsors, JA Solar, for sponsoring this session. We have a question for you, Samuel. There's someone who asked, what is the role, you talked about waste heat recovery, beyond self-supply, what is the role for waste heat recovery? And before you actually answer that, what is waste heat recovery? Just from first principles, explain to us what you're talking about.
Yes. So this is something that is working very well for the cement industry, which is a heavy consumer, where they waste heat recovery is you're using the heat that is coming from other processes. Because remember, C&I is commercial and industrial. So in industrial processing, there's some waste heat, and so there are systems that can make use of that waste heat to generate additional electricity. And so this is already one of the big drivers of the growth in captive power generation. So the cement industry, I think even the steel industries are making more use of this. And this is also, it's a form of baseload power, because as long as you are running your processes, then you have this waste heat recovery, waste heat that can be recovered for more additional generation. So I think it has because of the profile that you can have this power generated at different times of the day. It has a bigger role in this beyond self-supply. So meaning if there is an incentive for a company to have a larger waste heat recovery, for an industry to have a larger waste heat recovery and send some of that power to the grid, then it can have, in addition to reducing the reliance of that industry itself on the grid, but it can also benefit the grid. This is one of the technologies that we're saying that if there's more support also going to some of those that can provide some baseload power. I think this waste heat recovery goes hand in hand with thermal power technologies. So sometimes you see a lot of power plants that use heavy fuel oil or coal or such. Or even, I think even in the case of geothermal, there is an opportunity to then have waste heat recovery added to that. Yeah, so it does have a significant role to play in the beyond self-supply story.
Thanks, Sam. I'm saying today we have very few questions from the audience, and now I would want to move to a session where we're now giving our closing remarks. So just give us your thoughts about these topics we've been discussing around, and then we will conclude. But for the audience, we still remain monitoring our 3 platforms. If there's a question that you still feel you need to ask, write it there. Even after the session, we will still look at the 3 platforms and give feedback on whichever questions that will be asked. And my hope is that we have not been in an echo chamber, and everybody has actually kind of understood what we are talking about. I will start with Vicky. Then Lynette, then back to Sam as we conclude. You could give your concluding remarks.
Okay, thank you. For me, it's just to say that there is obviously a lot of opportunity in the energy sector and also opportunity for business. I think is to just reiterate that messaging will be everything, and consistent messaging will be everything. And this can mean leveraging on, organizations such as ours, the chambers of commerce, having roundtables, just to demystify and make clear this message and get curiosity from maybe the quarters that most likely are not the traditional people who will come into this sector. I think there is the opportunity to also create some win-win narrative, and have maybe people take up the challenge. We're trying to grow the beyond, we're trying to grow captive energy, and we're trying to supply to the grid. How much can you contribute as a certain group? And posing it as a challenge then makes people realize, so we are part of a bigger agenda, and maybe that can sort of bring also people to action and push that we want to see. And then last but not least, towards now financing, is seeing how you can be part of creative gender sensitive instruments or partnerships that can allow for women to participate. Women and youth, actually, we represent women and youth in projects such as this. I think my last remarks.
Thank you, Vicky. Lynette?
Okay, thank you, George. I would say with the move to beyond self-supply, as JA, we see an opportunity to lead rather than to follow, and to actively participate in grid stabilization, clean energy trading, and long-term sustainability. And at JA, we are very proud to be part of this transition by offering, of course, bankable, high-performance products, that can be used. And we just don't produce for today's needs, but we have in mind of tomorrow ambitions. And as we close, I'd like to invite any developer, EPC, financier, or any business organization that are looking for a solar solution and they don't know where to start. Here at JA, we are going to assist you as a local team from where to start all the way to commissioning of your project. And feel free to reach out on LinkedIn. You find me under Lynette Karume. Thank you so much, ESSAC, for inviting us to this platform. We look forward to having more of this, and we look forward to also educating the market. We don't also just want to benefit from the market, we want to educate it too. So thank you so much. We look forward to another session.
Thank you. Sam?
Yeah, thank you, George. Thank you to our audience. I think it's another good knowledge sharing session. I hope we did justice to it in terms of expounding on some of the concepts that should come to our minds when we say beyond self-supply. As a consumer, let me start with that. Before I come to as a player in the energy sector, as a consumer, having a more robust energy supply mix is a good thing. I wouldn't want a situation where I have to go through 6 hours of load shedding if we didn't have the 600 megawatt of additional generation. I am also happy to see additional approaches to bring additional capacity to the grid. So this is another success of this. But it also enables, so beyond now, me looking at it as a consumer, but looking at the industry story of Kenya, I look at this as playing an important role. It's not the only sector or subsector that is playing a role here, but is playing an important role and creating an opportunity for some of the other industries that Lynette talked about, the data centers that will require a lot more power, and they shouldn't be coming to compete with the little that we've developed. So and now speaking from as a player in the energy sector, I think there is a lot of interesting development, and as long as we keep this focus on the customer, so the customer remains at the center of it, then I see this as a big win, that we are approaching this energy supply from different angles, and the different players in the sector are talking to each other, not at each other, and that will lead to us having more flexible grid in terms of the sources, utilizing many different sources of power. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much to our panelists. I think you guys have done a good job to try and demystify this topic we're talking about on beyond self-supply. I've had some really great ideas from all three of you, which I will also take forward as we continue with our work as the association to kind of demystify, share knowledge, and also just encourage private investment. And with even a gender-sensitive kind of angle towards it. Asanteni sana to the public, those who have logged in on X, on YouTube, on LinkedIn. Thank you for your adherence to this session. And please look out to our social media handles for the next session. And also, if there is a topic that is of interest to you that you feel you would benefit from a KSS session, feel free also to suggest it for us, and we'll take it up and organize a session for that. Thank you very much. This is the end of our KSS for today. Please be on the lookout for the next one. Asanteni sana and have a good evening. Bye-bye.